G'day, gastronomes and jigsaw enthusiasts. Did you know that inside every pack of Arnott's shapes there's a jigsaw? Not everyone knows this, but they're all cut in a jigsaw die from the original cardboard that they're made from. Let's just have a look at a close look at what they look like. I should be around on the other side, the sun's in the way. Stuffing up the white balance, and then I put my hand in. As soon as I put my hand in, the white balance changes. Check it out. See the shapes? Turns out that's truth in advertising. They're actual shapes. Now, of course, like any good jigsaw, there's a like any good jigsaw, you can find the name of the jigsaw puzzle on the box. So here it is. This one's called Aztec Dreaming. It says so on the box. So let's see what we've got here. Now, that's the picture on the box. As you can see, the picture on the box, it's not a perfect match for the actual jigsaw itself. So what we need to do is use a bit of inventiveness now and a bit of imagination. So we'll start with all the triangles. We've got the triangles. Now the triangles can be assembled like this. The triangles are not, or maybe they could be assembled like that, you know. But when you do that, you can just spin it around. They'll join up like that. So I think this is what's being got at with the Aztec reference. That's a typical kind of Aztec construction, right? The triangles. If you think about some of those, maybe it's not Aztec always. Maybe the Inca also had some things like that. But I think this is Aztec. So I've got one more triangle. Okay, there it is. So I think that's the middle. Now, we've got these. Now, this is the interlocking part. So, you know, a good jigsaw puzzle, there's always interlocking things. And this is the part that interlocks. I guess you could say that the triangle interlocks as well. But of course it does. Of course it does, because they're all cut from the same die. Well, I'm sure the die has multiple rows in it. We've got quite a few of these, so I'm just going to imagine that this is how it works. I've got to say this is a lot quicker than doing Anatolian mountain cabin that I did the other day, which was an absolute nightmare. If you're listening, Anatolian, that is not, you need to work on your dies, because the way your pieces are cut is just bullshit. It's garbage. It's not fun. I'm never going to buy another Anatolian puzzle. See, Anatolian had this idea that all pieces should be dog bones. No, they shouldn't be dog bones, because when you get to the sky and it's all roughly one colour, you can't get anywhere because they're all very, very similar in shape, and you can't put your missing piece in depending purely on the shape. And you can't work on the colour, because the sky's all much the same colour. So you're left with a painful process of having to trial fit maybe 60 pieces of sky into one area. You can't narrow it down much. Usually you can't narrow it down because they're all bloody dog bones and they're all roughly the same size. You know, compared to Ravensburger, sometimes you've got to flip the pieces, you know. See, that's the wrong way up. You've got to flip it around so that they're all the right way up. I think these are okay now. Now here's the problem with hexagonal. I was going to say Ravensburger put a lot of thought into their dies and how they cut the pieces. And so what they do is, first of all, they make the other three of the main shapes much more common. So that, yes, dog bones are the most popular, most common, but you know, your castles, your crooked trees, your jelly babies are also very, very common in with the Ravensburger puzzle. And you can spot them straight away, and you've got a much smaller pool to choose from. Not only that, but instead of being pretty square in shape, you know, they make their lines curvy, and you get very distorted dog bones and crooked trees and so forth. Very distorted, and you can see it. You can recognise the shape and find the shape, put it in. But you can't do that with Anatolian. I sent them a letter expressing my concerns quite forcefully. Right, so I think we've got, this is the, you know, got the nice Aztec image here. Now the problem with hexagons is they do interlock, but they don't leave, they leave these holes, right? Leave these holes. And sometimes you get a piece that fits in the hole like that. But they don't make enough of those, you see. What happened to all those pieces? Well, I can imagine what happened. It was all to do with the way... Maybe that whole die, it's just hexagons. Rows and rows of hexagons. And when you've got rows and rows of them, they all match up. And it's only the bits at the end where you need to put the missing piece in to make the line up at the end. And there's obviously they come on a big roll, and there's not much left at the end. Right, so we're nearly done. Look at that. It's got a nice picture of it. Again, the bloody colours, I've got to come around. I've got to come around because, hang on. I've got to come around to get the right light. Even then it doesn't work. What? I'll just show you a close-up of putting in the missing piece at the end. You can see how well it fits. So if I had another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. If I had 11 more of these, could have filled that in beautifully, and it would have been the perfect Aztec dreaming. So there it is. I recommend you buy some savoury shapes, because barbecue shapes don't have these essential, the triangles and the, I don't know what you call those, fatties and thinnies that fit together nicely. But savoury shapes do, and also I think savoury shapes are one of the better shapes. I grew up with shapes. Back in the days, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and back in the days in the 60s, they were owned by Brockhoff. They weren't Arnott's in those days, and they didn't have all the later ones like pizza shapes and bacon and cheese and whatever. They didn't have all those, which are pretty evil in my opinion. The main one was the barbecue shapes, and back in those days they were much nicer. I've got to say they were really fantastic back in those days. They put more fat into the biscuits, and there was more real tomato in them, compared to now where they've just, every time you buy a pack, they've taken a little bit more of the tomato out, and they've taken a bit more of the fat out and put more salt in. And I'm not sure, but my father used to call them spudbicks. So they must have had potato in them at some point. Spudbicks. Maybe they still have potato. I don't know. Doesn't taste like it. Maybe. Yeah, back in those days. And the savoury shapes were around. I don't know if they were around at exactly the same time, but certainly they've been around a long time. And I do like them. I do like their flavour. I used to love this. Used to love the barbecued shapes, but as I say, they're just not as good as they were, you know. Bloody arsehole capitalism. Everything's driven by price, profit margin, and so you can't get good food from the supermarket anymore because it's all driven by price. All the biscuits are driven by price. So I mean, even Tim Tams, you know, they take the chocolate out. because it costs money, so they take it out. Anything that costs money, they take it out, and you end up with a biscuit that tastes not very nice. Oreos, what a load of garbage you guys are. Anyway, there it is, Aztec Dreaming. Get your own packet of shapes and see what jigsaw is inside for you.